Hey everybody, it's Kelly with Inky Hands Warm Hearts. How are you guys today? I am so happy to be here with you. We are going to be working on another card with the Paradise Palms bundle. It's an amazing bundle. This is my third video on it. I absolutely love this card. Every single card I've made is different, and I am enjoying working with this stamp set and dies so much. Today I have paired the Paradise Palms bundle with the All That dies. I love these. They go with a stamp set that's a guy stamp set masculine. But I love these dies. I love the shapes of them and I use them a lot. So I've used this oval right here to do the sentiment which says retirement wishes on it. And so don't forget about these really cool All That dies. And of course we have the palm dies that go with Paradise Palms. We're going to be using the two long trunks and then the two palms that are the larger pieces in this stamp set today. So let's go ahead and get started. I am going to move them out of the way. I'm going to take our card, let you look at it real quick. Isn't that gorgeous? And I'm going to show you how to achieve this watercolor wash. This is the inside. I chose to just go with a classic black silhouette. I thought it looked awesome against that really pretty Poppy Parade color, which is the color of paper I've chosen to use as my base. So this is a really fun card and it's made very simply. You're going to have the best time working with it, working with me as I make it. And let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to move this out of the way. We're going to use our water painters today, and I'm going to use the largest brush. I do have water in it already. It's very simple to fill. You just bring it to your tap, and it works the opposite direction. It's not righty-tighty. It's the opposite, so that you don't, by accident, open it. So you turn it to open it the opposite direction. So there is our water painter, and this is our thick brush, and so I'm just gonna kind of get it going, get a little water flowing in it. And we're going to be using our Fluid 100 paper today. So when I do any kind of watercoloring, I have this really cool cutting board. It's just a miniature board, and I keep it in my craft room. And as you can see, I do lots of watercoloring. I love it. And of course, the latest that I've done is this red, so you can see it very, very eminent on my cutting board. But I use this as my kind of backing, my piece, so that my watercolor paper has a place to live and I don't have to worry about my surface and getting it dirty. So we are going to take our piece of Fluid 100 watercolor paper, and I've cut it to 3 3/4 by 5 inches. And my card base itself, I've chosen to go long ways with it. So it's 4 1/4 by 11. And we are going to go ahead and fold that in half. So I'm going to have my corners meet here. I'm going to grab my bone folder. And I'm going to press that into place just like that. Then we have a piece of basic black cardstock that's going to be layered behind our Fluid 100 watercolor paper. And the basic black is 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. And the watercolor, again, is 3 3/4 by 5. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to move this to the side with my card front. Just kind of move it over here. And I'm going to show you how to start working on this really pretty watercolor wash. So the first thing that we are going to do is we're going to emboss. So I'm going to grab my heat gun. We are going to be using Versamark ink. I put both of my palms on one block to make it easier. So I'm going to be stamping a set right here, and then I'm going to move it and do another one where this one's off. And then we're going to heat emboss it. We're going to, stamp our two tops of our palm trees, and then we're going to heat emboss it, and then comes the watercolor part. So I'm going to move my cutting board out of the way temporarily until it's time to bring that into place. And let me just grab my heat gun and get that ready to go. So it will get a little noisy in here because, heat guns are not silent, guys. but they are necessary for cool techniques like this. So I'm going to grab my Versamark, and this is going to be hard for you guys to see at first, but just trust me, it's there, and it's going to be awesome. So we're going to start with our Versamark, and I'm going to grab a scrap piece of cardstock. I always keep scrap cardstock in front of me on my desk in like a little container. And so I'm just going to lay this onto that scrap piece of cardstock so that when I stamp these palms, the parts that kind of come off will be onto this paper. So we're going to go ahead and ink up our palm trees with our Versamark ink. So I'm going to do both of them at the same time. Going to get those nice and inked. And now what Versamark is, it's kind of like a watermark kind of ink. So it's clear and it's hard to see at first, especially on this color paper. If you were to do it on a darker color paper, you would see it. But just trust me that it's there. We're going to stamp our little palms here onto our watercolor paper. We're going to stamp 2 there. I'm just going to make sure that I have a nice impression. I'm going to lift up, and then I'm just going to ink this straight one for this next time. And I'm going to add it to the right. So I'm going to slide this over. And I'm going to also have it about right there. And I'm going to make sure that I have a nice impression. And then I'm going to move that out of the way. Now, I have to stamp these palms, and it is kind of hard to see, but they are there. So if I move it in the light, I can kind of see where the tops of my palms are, okay? So I'm gonna take my pencil and I'm just gonna mark just a little tiny dot right there, and this last one is right about here. So I have 3 itty bitty tiny dots. I'm going to bring them up there. You probably can't see it very well, but trust me, they're on there. I can see them. And I'm going to use that to help line myself up with these tops of these palms. So I'm going to start with this one. I'm going to put it down here, and I'm going to find my little dot and make sure that my palm tree is over that trunk. I'm going to grab this guy, and I'm going to do one on this side. Right down there, and I'm gonna ink up again, and I'm gonna do my last one right there. All right, so those are my 3 palm trees. I know you can't see anything. You're going, why are you even lifting that up? We can't see anything, but you will soon, okay? Trust me. So I'm gonna grab a larger piece of scrap paper, well, copy paper. I'm gonna grab a sheet of it. I'm going to bring that in. I'm going to place my card on it, and we're going to use our clear embossing powder. Okay, so I have taken my little jars of embossing powder. They come in small little containers like this, and I've poured them into these containers, and on the back I've put the label of what it is. So this is the clear one. So I'm just going to open this up, and I am going to start putting that clear powder over the top. I picked some up, and I'm just following my outline of my palms, and they're going to start coming to life. Okay, I'm going to tap the excess, which is why I'm using this copy paper. I'm going to do one more time. I'm going to bring some in. I'm going to try and grab that last larger palm and slide that over the top. And I like to tap off the excess. I don't think I got really good on that one edge. So I'm gonna come back in. And I'm gonna make sure that my palms are nice and coated in this clear powder, and that even the trunks at the bottom have a good coating. I'm gonna do one more pass. And that's why I have this copy paper here, to help catch the excess that might fall out of my little. And I'm just going to tap the extra onto this copy paper. And then I like to use a tiny paintbrush. So I look to see if any other parts that I don't want on there are there. and I brush away any excess that I see that might have stuck to my fingerprint or the card in any way. Okay, so I'm going to clear that off. I'm going to set this right on top of this card just temporarily, and I'm going to take my copy paper here that collected my extra, and I'm just going to pour my powder back in there, and then we're going to move this out of the way completely. I'm going to tap all my powder back into its little container here. I'm going to make sure that there's nothing on my mat because I do not want to put embossing powder onto my pretty mat that I use when I film my videos. All right, so now that I know that I'm good, I'm going to go ahead and lay my little palm trees. I hope that, I mean, you guys probably still can't see them. I'm going to hold them up here. If I move the light, you can probably see them a little better. I actually saw something when I did that, and I'm going to grab this little line here and get rid of that. Of powder. Yeah, so sometimes you get things that you don't want, and that's why I like using the brush. And you need to use the light in your room and really make sure that you get all that extra off of there. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and heat it, and as we heat it, you're going to start seeing it come to life. So I'm going to move it over here to the side because my gun is plugged in on the side of my desk here. Here it is. And I'm going to use this paintbrush. I'm just going to hold it in place, and I'm going to go ahead and get it started. Hopefully you guys can hear me over the heat of the gun. And I'm going to start at the bottom here where the trunks are, and I'm going to kind of go until I see it start crystallizing and forming a shiny palm. I'm going to work my way up. And I'm going to get my tree nice and embossed and shiny. And then I'm going to move over to my next one. And you can see it as it starts to turn. I don't know if you guys can see on camera, but I will hold it up when I'm done, so that you guys can see the palms that are clear on top of this paper. I just want to make sure that all of them are heated. I'm going to hold them up a little into the light so that I can make sure that everything was heated properly and crystallized the way I want it, so that it will resist that watercolor wash that I'm going to put on it. So I definitely want to double check. It takes a minute just to make sure that you have everything heated. I'm just going to go over this part one more time. Since that was my first palm, my gun wasn't quite so hot when I started. And let's do this one other side, and then we're going to shut the gun off and get started on our watercolor wash. All right. So that was noisy. Let me hold it up to the camera so that you guys can see. I'm gonna move it so that the light catches it. I hope that you guys can see these palms and that they're actually there. So we are gonna bring in my cutting board now. This is when the fun part starts. So I'm gonna clean my stamps real quick. Get them out of the camera. We don't need these palms anymore. We are done with the palms. And I have already heat embossed the retirement wishes words on my black die cut piece. So it's an oval. And I already heat embossed it. I used the white powder for this. And when you purchase our embossing powders, you get a couple colors. So you get a clear, a white, and a black in the package. So it's nice. So you have your basic colors that you will use the most in an assortment. And there's a metallic assortment as well if you want to do like gold and silver and that kind of stuff. So I already did this so you wouldn't have to sit here and watch me heat emboss again. So this is ready for us to go whenever the time is done. So I'm going to take my water painter here, and I'm just going to I'm going to grab my hand and I'm just going to start squeezing right in this place, which starts the water flowing, okay? And I'm going to do a wash onto my watercolor paper. So when I do this wash, I want to figure out where I want my water, and I don't want it all over all the way to the outer edges, okay? So I just want to make sure that I put plenty of water down and that it covers my palms where I want it, but it doesn't necessarily have to go all the way to the edge. Now, if you want yours all the way to the edge, feel free to do that. I'm just gonna play with it and get my color over the top. Now, I still had some of the reds on here, which is fine. It's gonna be okay because I'm using the same color. But if you were doing a different color, you definitely wanna make sure that you wash out your brush and purge it so that no more color shows. Now, you can see as that water hits that paper, it's kind of curling a little bit. So I'm going to take my inks, and I have my pumpkin pie here. I'm going to put it at the bottom. I'm going to take Melon Mambo and put it next to it. And then I'm going to take Poppy Parade. Hopefully you guys can see all these colors. And I'm going to take a re-inker of Poppy Parade. I'm going to put 1 drop into that lid there. I'm going to put 1 drop of Melon Mambo into this lid. I think I'm actually going to put another drop of the Poppy Parade because I don't seem to have very much in there. And it was kind of a stingy drop I put in there. There we go. And then last, I'm going to do the same thing with the pumpkin pie. I'm going to put a drop into my lid. Okay. How pretty does that look, guys? I'm in love with this. So I'm going to start at the top, and I'm going to start with the Poppy Parade. Okay, and I have a watercolor ink kind of washcloth that I have commandeered just for my craft room. And I'm going to place that over here on the side. I'm going to use that to purge some water out of here as I need. So I'm going to go ahead and squeeze some water, and I'm going to dribble it into that drop. There it goes. And it's starting to flow. Okay, I'm going to put a tiny bit more. And I'm going to move this around. You see how that concentrated drop becomes this really blood red color. So I'm going to start at the top, and I'm going to wash that onto my card over the top of these palms, okay? And you can see that the part that has been heat embossed is resisting that color. All right, so there is that. I'm going to go back in. I'm going to add a little darker. And you can see it start to pool. And I'm just going to move it around, figure out where I want the darkest concentration here. And there's my red. Okay, now I'm going to take this and I'm going to squeeze water onto my little washcloth here until it mostly runs clear. Now, it doesn't have to be completely clear because I'm going into the next shade, so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to drop some more water into that, and I'm going to grab our Melon Mambo, which is our pink, our bright pink. And now we're going to come in, and I'm going to blend some onto that red so that it blends together. And I'm going to add that pink tone onto my palm trees. Little by little, saturate it as much as I want it to show, as much or as little as I want. Okay. And there is my Melon Mambo. Again, I'm going to purge. And now we're going to pick up, make sure that I'm clear. There we go. I'm going to pick up my pumpkin pie. Again, I'm going to drop some color on that re-inker. I'm going to grab that, and I'm going to do now my pumpkin pie color. And I'm going to add that over the top. And again, I'm going to blend that into the Melon Mambo. And I'm just going to bring that through and add a little bit more. As I'm happy with the color, you can see it's starting to dry at the top. I'm going to purge some of that pumpkin pie out of my water painter. And I want a little bit darker red at the top. So I'm going to come back into my poppy and I'm going to grab that and I'm going to go over the top of that drying piece and I'm going to add more. I really want it to be a nice red. I'm going to do the same thing with my Melon Mambo. I'm going to purge. I'm going to grab some more. I'm going to add more of that Melon Mambo color. And then lastly, with what's left in my water painter here, after I purge, I'm going to grab a little bit more orange. All right, so you're just going to leave that. And you're going to purge out whatever's left of your water in your painter through your brush by squeezing on there until it goes onto your little towel here. And I'm just going to keep going. And then I will rinse this in my sink when I'm done. But for right now, I'm just going to cap it and put it to the side with my piece. And I'm going to set this aside. I'm going to close my ink pads and I'm going to set this aside to dry. Now you could use a heat gun to dry it, but I like the look of it just drying all on its own. I think it's so pretty. So I'm just going to set it to the side here. And I have one that I've already done that has dried. Now you can see every time you do it, it's a little different. This one has a little bit more pink, not quite as much red. There's more water blotchiness, and every time you do it, it will look different. So this is the one that's already dried, and it does take some time to dry. You can see how it adds, it picked up from my board some color that I had on there on the back, but I'm not using the back, so it doesn't matter. But you can see as it dries, it will soak into your cards, into your watercolor paper. And we are gonna go ahead and attach that onto our piece of basic black cardstock. So I'm going to grab my wet adhesive here. I'm going to grab my silicone mat. I always use that when I use my wet adhesive. And I'm going to go down the center and then I'm going to go around in a rectangle to make sure that I get nice around those edges and that I have plenty of adhesive on my piece. We're going to go ahead and glue this onto our basic black cardstock. But I like using this wet adhesive because it gives me that wiggle room and I can really put a little too much on that corner there. But the cool thing is I can rub it onto my silicone mat there. All right. Just make sure all of our edges are down because this watercolor paper is thick. So you just want to make sure that it really adheres really well to your basic black cardstock layer. So there is our beautiful watercolored washed background. So now we're going to add our twine on the back. So I used about 20 inches or so of black twine. So it comes in an essentials pack where you get 5 different colors: crumb cake, gray, white, vanilla, and black. I'm going to use the black today, and I'm also using a piece of cotton ribbon from our cotton ribbon combo pack. You get 2 colors. I'm using this lighter piece here, and I have it already cut so that it's a little bit longer than my card on either side. So I just laid it across and then I snipped it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach it to the back of my card. So I'm going to use some tape runner to do that. So I'm going to use some seal adhesive and I'm going to hold it approximately where I want it on my card, about right there. And I'm going to pull that tight and bring it around to this side. And then I know where I want to put my tape runner. So I'm just going to put that there, and I'm going to go ahead and stick that piece down to there. And I'm going to go ahead and flip it back to the front. I'm going to pull it tight. I'm going to do the same thing here. And I'm going to just put a little bit of the tape runner there, and I'm going to get this to stick to that piece of tape runner. Okay. So now we're going to use our twine, and we're going to wrap it around our piece. Just get your ribbon back in line and in place. So I'm just going to grab some, and I'm going to hold about an amount that I can use to tie a little bow on the side, loose on this end here. And then I'm just going to wrap 1, 2, and a third time, 3. I want 3 lines of that twine. And then when I come up here, I'm just going to bring these to the center, and I'm going to try and get about the same height. I'm going to grab my scissors here, and I'm going to trim my twine. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and tie a knot in the center. And we're going to fasten that knot together. I just think it's easier to tie a bow when you first have a knot. So there's my little knot, okay? Pull that nice and tight. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and tie my bow. So I'll make my loop, make my other loop, put it through here, and I'm gonna figure out how I want it to lay. I'm gonna kind of hold on, and I'm gonna pull on the ends, and then I'm gonna pull on the little tails, pull on the ends, just keep on going till I get my bow to look how I think it looks good. This one's a little twisted, so I'm gonna try and untwist it here. There we go. And when I'm happy with how the loops look and how my tails look, I'm gonna just pull that tight, and then I'm just gonna mess with my twine. I'm gonna put 1 in the center, I'm gonna pull 1 over, leave 1 there, and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna use a mini glue dot. These are genius because they help hold in place. So I'm gonna grab my take your pick tool, the pointy end, and I'm just gonna ball it up, and then I'm gonna grab my twine here, I'm gonna stick that in the center, and then I'm gonna put the knot on top of it. And when you do that, it will hold it in place, and then you can play with your loops and get them to lay onto that little balled up piece of and then pull on your ends. And when you're happy with how your bow looks, which I'm almost there, except this one loop just keeps twisting on me. I may have to work on it after the camera is off, because sometimes, you know, these twine pieces and ribbons, they get shy when the camera's on. I don't know why they get crazy, but I'm trying to get it to show here. Come on, loop, work for me. There we go. Ah, there, perfect. Okay, so there's my little ends. That looks great. Okay, so now we're gonna add our retirement wishes right here. So I'm gonna grab some dimensionals, and I'll use 2 of those. Use my take your pick tool again and pull the backs off. Oops, came undone. Throw that into the trash. And we're gonna go ahead and add that over the top here. Figure out where I want it to be placed. That looks pretty good to me. Just a little bit over the ribbon. Right there. And now we're gonna add some more dimensionals to the back of this piece. And we're gonna raise it up off of our Poppy Parade card base. So I'm gonna put 3 down each side. And then I'm going to put a couple in the middle here, like that. Grab my Take Your Pick tool again. Pull the backs off. One more. And then let's grab our folded card. And we are going to lay our piece over the top and really find our center, how we want it to look, how we want it to lay. And just press that down into place. That looks awesome. I'm very pleased with that. Now let's go ahead and stamp our inside. So I've used our Memento Black ink, Tuxedo Black, and we are going to stamp the palm tree trio here and the words, "Hope you find a little paradise wherever you may be," on the inside of our card. So let's go ahead and ink that up. Place that right there. And now let's do our palm trees. I'm going to put the stamp this way. I'm going to bring the ink pad to it so I know that I have it nice and inked. It's a little juicy there, but hopefully it won't get too saturated on my card. I'm going to place that in this corner. And we're going to ink that right up. There's my palm trees. I love that silhouette on the inside. And there are our palms on the outside. I hope that you enjoyed watching me make this really cool watercolor wash. I think it's absolutely beautiful. It dries so pretty, and like I said, every time you do it, it's a little different. I'm cleaning my stamps. That's the squeakiness that you hear. But I like to use my chamois and clean them right away. I'm just kind of that girl. Let me show you how our wash is doing. It's doing really well. I may add a little bit more to get a little bit more contrast, and let the water pool so that I get some of this kind of effect on there. But it'll continue to dry. It's not fully dry. And I think it's awesome. So I hope that you have enjoyed it. Thanks for joining me today. And I appreciate having you with me. Don't forget that I have linked all of the products that I used in the description below. Subscribe to my channel. I would love to have you watch my videos as I post. And I've used the Paradise Palms stamp set, and I have paired it with All That dies for this really cool oval. So I hope that you enjoyed today. I enjoyed being with you. Thanks again for watching. This is Kelly with Inky Hands Warm Hearts. Happy stamping, guys.